I really wish I was watching Hotline TV right about now.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us. You can learn more about America's natural resources at nma.org, the National Mining Association.
From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
It's Hotline TV. I'm Chuck Todd.
And I'm John Mercurio. Welcome to a special big show, State of the Union edition. Chuck, let's start today with the big state, with the state of George Bush's presidency. It's been over a year since his poll numbers were anywhere near respectable. Will his speech tonight do anything to salvage anything more than a contentious lame duck end to his second term?
I don't see how it does. He seems to have zero credibility on any issue anymore, unless he's out there, unless he goes out there and gives a Democratic State of the Union. And I don't mean that in a sense that he's got to agree with everything the Democrats say, but he almost has to go. He's got to go 2/3 of the way on some issue. Maybe it's global warming. Yeah. Maybe it's something that will be like, oh wow, he really is like. Because he's got no credibility in Iraq. Our poll tested it. Remember, we tested his name in front of stuff.
And we tested McCain's name.
And McCain had more credibility on the same plan.
If you look at the issues, too, that he's talking about, that he's going to be talking about tomorrow night, global warming, energy independence, education, and Iraq, all of the proposals that he's coming up with are sort of patch-over proposals. Things that don't necessarily chart a new course, not a bold direction, but things to sort of patch over how his presidency has gone and sort of carry over for the next 2 years.
You mean
not something you build a legacy on. We're not going to go to Mars.
Was that 2 years ago?
We're not going to go to Mars, but America is still addicted to oil just as much as it was last year.
Did he say that in last year's State of the Union?
He said that in last year's State of the Union, and then a week later he cut $100 million out of renewable fuels.
It's interesting. I'm going to be curious. He's never been big for the symbols, right? Remember, Bill Clinton always had a pen with him or some new card, or he always held up some new thing, right, that people were going to get. I kind of wonder, maybe Bush will try to become a pothole president. Will he try to, like, and all of us will be carrying this someday, our prescription drug, this.
Look, the thing about this speech, thing about this speech, and with no offense to our decision to have this conversation about it, is that the State of the Unions have become such a television event. They really are just expected to be a speech to the country. I don't think anything major comes out of this one.
And usually presidents can get a slight bump out of these things, but it seems like it's nothing that Bush can do. If he gets a bump of a point, I'll be shocked.
How many times have we had the conversation about Bush taking an opportunity to give a speech and turn the corner?
That's right. So
and it doesn't happen.
Maybe we'll have no expectations for it, and this will be the one he hits out of the ballpark. This weekend, Johnny Boy, was, to say the least, very, very busy.
Indeed.
It's a good thing we put out a Saturday and Sunday hotlines and Saturday hotline TVs. 3 candidates announced they would run. And we've already examined Hillary Clinton and Sam Brownback's campaigns. On Sunday, your man, New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, made his bid official. John, why is Richardson going to be the next president of the United States?
Because he's been planning this race since, I think, 1978, when he first arrived in New Mexico in an Alfa Romeo with his fraternity buddy. He's been planning this campaign. It has been his long-term plan to run for president. It is. Not a lot of people know who Bill Richardson is. Not a lot of people give him any expectations. I don't ultimately think he wins the nomination, but I do think that what you're going to see out of his campaign is going to be a much more comprehensive, a much more strategically calculated run than I think a lot of people are expecting. Does he actually move into the top tier? Probably not, maybe. But look, I don't count him out completely at all.
There's a path to relevancy, that's clear, right? Why he's here. The thing that he's got to shake is, one, it was really the 2 questions that I thought Stephanopoulos hit. You got to ask Richardson if you got an interview. Right. One was, you're running for vice president, aren't you? And the fact is, you look at the resume, and the guy is he's from a swing state, from the swing region of the country, Hispanic, governor, foreign policy credentials.
But he ruled it out for what it's worth.
Well, yeah, they all rule it out.
Right, but he
didn't rule it out.
He said, if I don't win the nomination, I'm going home to be. I wrote it down. I'm going home to be governor.
Yeah. Well, okay, he will for about 5 months, and then in July or August or whatever the conventions are now, September, accept Barack Obama's invitation to be on the ticket. The other one was Party Boy. And I love how Stephanopoulos asked it. Everybody's got their code for asking Richardson about his personal whatever.
Right.
So he asked it, what about this frat boy image? and Richardson why I think he's going to be so good on the campaign trail. He said, yeah, I was president of fraternity.
Right.
I mean,
great.
he directly answered the question and didn't answer. He just said, there's no scandal in my life.
But
so
it's
he
great.
didn't answer the question, but he answered the question.
There's a profile in the Albuquerque Journal talking about that actual time of his life in the fraternity. And what's great is that the Richardson people have already framed that as, you know, he was actually a square. He was the one who didn't like everybody smoking pot in the dorm house. He didn't like all of his fraternity brothers inviting their girlfriends to sleep over when that was against the rules, using the men's only bathroom. He was, when he actually ran for president, he was the conservative candidate in the race. He was the one who didn't want there to be all these lax rules. He was there in 1968, so it was kind of a crazy time.
I think the guy's personality alone, if it wasn't for Obama in this race, and I even asked him this, he made a courtesy call to a bunch of folks, and I said, wait a minute, aren't you as interesting as Obama is, except you have experience too? And I actually think if it wasn't for Obama, Richardson's got a very charming personality. Yeah. He could play a lot better in Iowa than any of us are giving him credit for.
You know, I love how we're
right,
talking about,
tough.
Is America ready for a black president? Is America ready for a Hispanic president? Is America ready for a half-black president? And is America ready for a half-Hispanic president?
And half blue
Hillary
blood.
Clinton
By the way,
is
half
only
blue blood,
full-blooded, sort of minority-esque candidate.
Oh,
she's the only. She's
all
a full
woman.
woman.
You can't say that she's
woman,
half
Hillary
woman.
Clinton.
I see what you're saying.
That's exactly.
We're
what
not
I'm
going
saying.
there. She's all woman. She's not half woman. Is what
John
said.
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have taken to the internet for their announcements. Bill Richardson announced on ABC's This Week with fellow ex-Clintonite George Stephanopoulos, while Senator Chris Dodd chose Don Imus's radio show. Brownback and Romney, on the other hand, held traditional rallies with lots of supporters. Chuck, what does a candidate's choice of announcement format say about his or her candidacy?
Well, let's just sit here and remember, the only person that's actually done his announcement yet is John Edwards, right? John Edwards has actually, and now Sam Brownback. They have done the rally, the big speech, the why I'm running for president. Mm-hmm. Even though I guess Brownback is technically exploring, but he did a rally too.
No. He's officially now running on January 22.
So he is an announced candidate for president. And John Edwards has done the former. So let's not confuse these things, right? They've all. This is how they've opened their committees.
But
they're still going to be.
Weeds. Come on,
no,
this is how you introduce yourself to the country.
You introduce the idea to political reporters.
Oh, but come on.
I don't believe that we're being introduced. Yes, with Hillary, there's an introduction. Yes, with Obama. Beyond that, everybody else is. There's going to be a formal announcement for Bill Richardson in 3 months. There's going to be
and then there's going to be another one in 6 months, and then there's going to be another one in 8 months if he hasn't actually caught on yet.
Look, I think they all feel like it is interesting. To me, I think that Barack Obama has set the tone for the field in a couple of ways. One is this whole can't we all get along theme that everybody's announcement has had. Sam Brownback in his announcement called for a bipartisan resolution on Iraq. Hillary Clinton had that very soft introduction on the couch. So I think it's interesting that Obama seems to have set the tone for how these folks should be, introducing themselves in a non-polarizing way.
You mentioned Brownback. I think he's really interesting. He was on. God, there were so many shows yesterday. I think he was on This Week yesterday, and I watched the interview. He was so inclusive. I mean, for somebody who is sort of known in Washington in the Senate for being sort of a pretty far
supposed
to the
ideologue,
right conservative,
the guy does
he was
not come across
so
as
much to the middle. Wouldn't even sort of take on the issue of gay rights and whether it was a federal issue. Wouldn't even take on sort of larger issues that you think, as a conservative running for the conservative nomination in the Republican Party, he would be trying to champion.
But nobody has struck me more as a guy running for vice president than Brownback, trying to basically
what about Richardson? You just
remake
said Richardson
himself.
Was the classic.
No, but in the sense that Brownback, he's trying to remake himself. He's trying to launder himself in the presidential campaign, I think, to be a viable running mate option for John McCain.
Which is why I think either he or Mike Huckabee would be an ultimately strong vice presidential candidate.
Howard Dean, your man, impressed everyone in 2004 with his prodigious internet fundraising. This year, John, a lot of candidates are generating buzz like Dean was.
That rhymes.
So who's going to surprise us in the fundraising department this first quarter? What's going to be the big number, and then what's going to be the small number? Are we not going to be surprised anymore?
Well, the big number, I think, is going to belong to Hillary. It's going to belong to Obama on the Democratic side. The Republican side, I think McCain, Giuliani, less so, and also Romney. I think the number we're going to be most surprised by is going to be a relatively small number that's bigger than we thought it would be, which is going to belong to Chris Dodd, the new chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. We've talked about this before.
He's got the potential to be a bigger
access to money. He's not in the top tier. He's not a front runner, and that'll obviously hinder his his bid, but I think he has the ability and the access to the sources of money that he needs.
I think what's going to be interesting is how easy is money now? You know, how much is it for somebody? Do you just turn on the spigot if you're Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton and McCain, or is there work to it? You get the sense that there's probably the person working less for his money now than anybody else is probably Obama. I think maybe I'm drawing a conclusion.
He's just riding this momentous wave
because he's got this great amount of waves. So you feel like he's got a spigot that he can just turn on.
Absolutely.
My favorite part of this whole fundraising was you look at the candidate websites and you decide which ones and how they're soliciting contributions. Obviously, we know Hillary Clinton soliciting $4,200 a pop. She's raising money as if she's going to be the nominee.
Sure.
She wants to raise general election money now. But Brownback had a very interesting thing on his contribution website. You can choose to give $10 and you can choose a monthly or you can choose a one-time thing. And it actually had this monthly thing. Hillary's didn't have that. To me, that just shows you the candidate who believes there'll be a grassroots candidate and the candidate that just believes it'll be big money.
Right, which I think Edwards did something similar to that in 2004, which was sort of like, it can be sort of you're trying to sort of expand.
That's what people forget.
Your base.
That's what Dean revolutionized. It wasn't the internet fundraising, it was constant fundraising.
Sure.
It was getting people to agree to a monthly installment, and so you turn any average citizen into a maxed out donor. It's actually a very smart thing.
All right, there's the 2-minute warning, and that does it for our special State of the Union Hotline TV. But before we go, let's check out the Obameter. Chuck, we're having another catch this week.
Look.
Hillary gets her shot on the Obameter as well.
The Mercury.
Where do you have them?
The Mercury is a different color now.
Damn, look at her. She's like,
wow.
She's got this menacing look on her face.
We'll see.
I love how, by the way, on her website, her mother does a little web shot, and all she talks about in it are her big, big, big eyes and how she finds them so endearing. There's going to be a big effort, I think, on the part of Hillary's people to redefine the way people view her face.
I think she pulled ahead in the amount. I think she's a little hotter because she's softer. She got hotter by becoming softer. It's the softer side. Hillary, it's almost as if she was advertising. Come on in. Come on into the house. Let me show you about my new. Did I show you my new candles?
You know what's funny?
My new scented candles.
Everybody
they
talks
make my house
about,
smell delicious.
Everybody talks about how
chocolate candles.
Can I speak? Can I speak? Chuck Todd?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about how the big question is whether Obama can live up to the expectations. She surprisingly has very low expectations, and the fact that she was actually able to tape a webcast that was personable, where she looked comfortable, where she talked to people, she was engaging, I think makes her the winner of the week. I think it makes her, I thought her webcast was actually superior to Obama's because nobody expects that from her. You expect a wooden, sort of faceless, or at least a cold.
That really worked well for President Gore as well. New spate of articles outing various.
He was elected, wasn't he?
Outing various members of Congress who sleep in their offices. Is hitting papers from Nebraska to Washington State. John, have you ever slept in your office?
Absolutely not, boss man.
Yeah.
New Congressman Heath
Sleep
Schuler
during the
says
day.
he can't wait for the inaugural congressional baseball game, or the annual congressional baseball game, and he thinks he'll be a big asset to the Democratic team. Chuck, what do you think?
I know I wouldn't put him as a catcher because he couldn't hold on to a ball at all when he was in RFK before. In an effort to avoid controversy that came up last year, the White House Correspondents' Dinner will be hosted by Rich Little. Who? Rich Little, a one-time famous comedian.
From
John,
before I was born.
Let's do our Johnny, Ed McMahon jokes,
don't
right?
even.
That's all we got.
Don't even.
Are you rooting for anybody else?
Yeah, I thought you would do a much better
I think I
job.
would
Chuck
do it.
Todd, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, Chuck, the Bears are in the Super Bowl. How will Barack Obama's team take advantage of this PR boom?
I think he will not be going to any Playboy parties. That's just a prediction. It's just a prediction.
Ooh.
There's the buzzer, and that does it for our special episode of Hotline TV.
I don't know about that one. Join us tomorrow and every day this week for all of the latest political gossip and insight. Thanks for watching. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Chuck Todd. We'll see you tomorrow. Hotline TV.